Okay, so we have reached a point where we're going to continue our coverage over Batman Knightquest, but we have to cover a bunch of different one-shots to kind of show John Paul being the Batman of Gotham City. Now, when it comes to Knightquest, there's going to be a point down the road where we're going to shift our focus back over to Bruce Wayne. And it's called Knightquest The Search, where you have Bruce Wayne out there trying his best to find Jack Drake, the father of Tim Drake, and to hopefully bring him back home. And that will actually begin our process of Bruce Wayne coming back into Gotham as we dive into Night Sin, the final part of the Nightfall trilogy. Now, when it comes to Night Quest, like I said, we're going to cover a bunch of one-shots. Today's video is one of those one-shots. We're going to cover Shadow of the Bat, issue number 24, written by Alan Grant. Now, this book to me is not really that bad. Here's the reason why, because it really shows the human side of John Paul Valley while being Batman. Now, if you have seen my coverage over Knightquest, we have seen John Paul kind of dive deeper and deeper into the whole concept of being Batman, being the protector of Gotham City, kind of losing his human side. And so this book right here is one of those stories where it kind of brings John Paul Valley back into reality, hoping to bring back his human side. And really, as we go through today's video, you're going to see what I mean about him bringing out his human side again. And so as we dive into the opening pages for today's video, we actually pick up with a young woman. Now, this young woman is an immigrant, and right now we see her at the dock in Gotham City, walking around with a bag full of money. Now, you do have these thugs realize that, one, she is an immigrant, and two, to them, she's easy picking. And also they realize that she has a bag full of money. And so you have these thugs trying to rob her. Now, luckily for her, Batman is there to save her. Now, like I said earlier, when it comes to John Paul Valley, we have been seeing him in Knightquest becoming more aggressive, kind of leaving behind his human side. And the reason why I'm bringing this up again, because when it comes to John Paul being more aggressive, he's more aggressive than Bruce Wayne was. And so most of the criminals in Gotham City, they're very scared of Batman. When they see him, they freak out instantly because they know this man is going to beat them down. And really, for the thugs, they're kind of hoping like, hey, we didn't rob her. Please leave us alone. You have John Paul say, no, I am going to use you as an example like I did to other people in the past when you crossed that line. And so he beats them down. Now, once you have Batman being able to actually save the young woman, you do have Batman asking her like, hey, what in the world are you doing out here in the middle of the night? Now, Batman, he was able to realize that she is speaking Spanish. And with John Paul being able to know Spanish, he's able to communicate with her. Now, she does tell us that she came to Gotham looking to get her baby back. Now, we do learn that her name is Rosemary. Now, we're not really told what country she came from, but we are told that around this time, there was a civil war happening in her country. And the reason why I'm bringing that up, because the guerrillas who took part of the Civil War, they would tax the food that came from Rosemary's village. And because of that, that village barely had any food left to survive. Now, when it came to her husband and her, they had 5 children to feed. But the big problem was Raul, her husband, was arrested by the government for supposedly helping out the guerrillas when it came to the Civil War. And so with her husband no longer being around, it got really hard for her to feed all of her children. And she felt like the only way to actually save her family was to free her husband from jail. But she had to pay for his releasement. And so she realized the only way to do that was to sell her baby. Now, she does ask for John Paul's help, but he says no. And the reason why, because to him, she is a criminal. You sold your baby away to just get some money to hopefully get your husband out of jail to what? Save your family? And so he walks away. Now, for Rosemary, she snaps. She said, "What kind of person are you? You see a mother right now trying her best to get her son back, and you're not willing to help out? Did you ever have a mother in your life who would do anything for you, do anything to get you back?" And so for John Paul, he realized that he's kind of losing his human side because now he begins to think about his mother. But now we have to jump over to Jim Gordon. Now, really, this plot line is not really important, but hey, you know what? Let's go ahead and talk about it. So, for Jim Gordon, he's trying to prove that this random guy that he had arrested had killed off his wife. The problem is, every single time they give him a polygraph, it shows that he is not lying when he says, "Hey, I didn't kill her. It must have been somebody else." But for Jim Gordon, he knows that it was the husband who had killed off his wife. But the problem is he's having a hard time proving that. And so now he thinks he has to call in Batman to help out. But now we jump back over to Rosemary to kind of continue to learn more about that character. And we do learn that for Rosemary, when it came to her giving up her child, she only got $50 for her child in American money. Now, that kind of money in that country can go a long way. And matter of fact, she planned on using that money to get her husband out of jail. Now, for Rosemary, she had no idea that she had just given up her child over to a, well, human trafficking ring that runs out of Gotham. Matter of fact, when she asked them, like, "Hey, where's my child going?" they tell her, "Oh, your child's going to California and going to have rich parents." Instead, that child, her baby, was sent over to Gotham City. Now, the only reason why she was able to learn where her child went because one of her other kids overheard where those people were taking their sibling to, Gotham City. Now, for John Paul, he does stop by the GCPD to kind of answer the call of Jim Gordon. Now, that is when you have John Paul inform Jim Gordon what is happening with Rosemary. Now, for Batman, it kind of seems like he might not really help out Rosemary as he tells Jim, like, "Hey, I might hand her over to you to kind of handle her problem." You didn't have Jim ask John Paul for advice to kind of prove how the husband had actually killed off his wife, because almost every single test they give to the husband, he is able to prove that he's actually innocent. And you didn't have Batman say, "Listen, when it comes to that husband, most likely he's using hypnosis as a way to kind of trick himself to make sure that he believes completely that he did not kill his wife, but in reality he did." And so once you have Jim Gordon realize that his new suspect has been using hypnosis as a way to trick his own mind, to trick the polygraph, you have Jim thanks Batman, and for Jim, he kind of knows that he had what he needs to bring down his suspect. Now, for Rosemary, do learn that once she had the money to go free her husband, apparently she finds out that her husband was killed off. And the reason why, because him and two other people were trying to escape. Unfortunately, they were all killed and buried. And so you have, I guess, the guard at the prison hand her husband's death certificate to prove that he was killed off. And so she sold her child to get that money, to get her husband, and basically now she can't. But now we jump into the ending of the book, where really we can kind of wrap everything up in this last section right here, because you have John Paul begin to do some detective work to kind of figure out how to bring down the entire human trafficking ring in Gotham City, or really child trafficking ring. And so you have John Paul going out of his way to do some detective work. And really, I kind of like this because when it comes to John Paul, he's not really big into, well, doing detective work. If he's working on a case, he kind of wishes that everything was laid out for him so that he can go ahead and take down the people he needs to take down. But in this case, he has to do some detective work to figure out who is behind this actual ring. And so after a few pages, he was able to learn who was behind the entire ring. Now, it is a bunch of different characters that we don't really need to care about. Just know that these guys are easily taken out by Batman. And so, with him being able to take them all out, just like that, Batman was able to shut down this ring going on in Gotham City. But also, it kind of shows that John Paul realized that he did this because these kids need parents. These kids need their mother, need their father. And for John Paul, he lost his mom, he lost his father. And so he wants to make sure that those kids do not go through the same thing, kind of bringing out his human side. But either way, you do have John Paul being able to bring down the ring, and this is where we are going to end today's comic book video. So please leave me a like down below and subscribe. Also, if you have any suggestions on books I should read, well, please let me know in the comments below, because you never know, your suggestion could be a future video down the road. But guys, see y'all next time. Later.